Hey gifted crafters, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be cutting some fabric with my brother ScanNCut. This is the SDX230DI model, so let's get started.
It's crafting time, craft my troubles away. Give me a world.
Okay, I've been having a ton of fun with this machine, so let's just jump right into it. I'm gonna go ahead and open up the machine, bring up the little panel, love that. And let's wake it up, shall we? So you'll see the little green light come on, the little screen is going, it shows its brother, really cute. Now it's got two trays on the bottom that hold all kinds of supplies, so I love storing my little stuff in here. Got my little stylus pen, which I use a lot, and I've got my rotary blade, I've got my other blade, I've got the holder that's for the ink, you have the little spatula, you know, it's just tons of stuff in here. I absolutely love it. So I'm just gonna grab those supplies out. It even has a second compartment, and that one is pretty big here. But let's go ahead and wake this thing up. I'm gonna go ahead and tap it, and it's going to tell me, hey, I'm gonna be moving stuff around, and I'm just gonna say, okay. So let it move around, wake up, and you're gonna see two options here. So we have pattern and we have scan. There are so many options on this machine. We can just go on and on and on. But we're gonna focus on just cutting fabric, and I'm gonna show you so many different things that you can do. It's so awesome. I absolutely love it. So what kind of fabric are we going to do? Well, we're gonna do all kinds, right? So I've got some fabric here that I treated with Material Magic. Now, if you're not familiar with Material Magic, is a liquid stabilizer that you can use that really firms up your fabric and stabilizes it so it's not going anywhere. That's a really amazing product to use. We are also just going to use some regular cotton fabric, and look, I cut this little cute little square. Super adorable. I really love it. And the other thing that we did, and this one is just so cool, we cut a piece of fabric, but we had it draw a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So then when I take it to my sewing machine, I can see the 1/4 inch seam allowance, and it is just going to be so easy to sew it, because all I gotta do is sew right on the line. Isn't that adorable? I really love it. This is just a game changer for those people who are struggling to sew on a 1/4 inch seam and sewing those straight lines. This is really cool. So we're gonna do all of these. We're also gonna try some applique, so we can do some pretty little things like this. So cute. And really just in time for the holidays. Really cute. You can put this together in no time with the ScanNCut. All right, let's get going, because we've got so much to do. So I'm gonna go ahead and just grab the first thing that we're gonna need, and that is our mat. Now, I am using the fabric mat, and you can see, well, what happened to your mat? It was new a few days ago, but not anymore. So let's take off that protective cover, because we've been using this quite a lot. Now, once you start using it, you're gonna get little fabric things, and you can do some stuff to clean it and things like that. And I'll do a whole other session on cleaning my mats once it really gets nice and dirty. But it's still very sticky. And this particular mat, which is the fabric mat, it is kind of that gold color here on the bottom, and it'll tell you fabric mat down here on the end. So you can see that that's clearly labeled, so you know which mat to use. Now, there's all kinds of different things that you can use. You can use the low-tack mat, you can use fabric mat. It really depends your preference and what you're really gonna be working on. But for today's session, we're gonna be using the fabric mat, and I'm gonna be just taking a couple of pieces of fabric. So I've got some here, and we're just gonna go ahead and willy-nilly just kind of put this anywhere, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and put that. Let's just put it over here. We're just gonna grab another one, And let's just say I'll put it over here. Yeah, that looks about right. And one thing you're going to want to have is a brayer. Works really well when you are putting fabric on your mat. It's really nice to kind of lay it down with the brayer to make sure that every piece of fabric is on the mat. And you want it to stay there. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna do that. Alrighty. Pretty ready to go. So let's come over to the ScanNCut and tell it what we want to do. So go ahead and hit pattern. And we are gonna do, let's do some shapes. You can see there's tons and tons of shapes. It goes on and on and on. Circles, squares, stars, hearts, all kinds of fun things that you can do. Matter of fact, let's just do something simple. I don't know, let's just do a heart. That's kind of hard for me to see at this angle, but I think I'm picking a heart over here. So that would just about work. So on here, it's going to show you the size. So this particular heart is 3.94 inches by 3.94 inches. You can change the size. You can go up, you can go down and change the size. And you can also tell it, well, how many hearts do you want to do? So you can change it. It has 1 right now, which is, we're going to change that to 2. And then we're going to go ahead and hit set. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna grab our mat. Now I'm gonna line it up. They've got these little guides here on the edge here. Just go ahead and line up your mat there. And you're going to want to hit the little button here on the side. That's gonna bring your mat in. So let's go ahead and hit that button. It's gonna go ahead and bring the mat through. And just make sure that you have enough clearance on the back because you don't want the mat moving to the back and bumping into things. So make sure you've got a nice space here on the back of the ScanNCut. It's got a little tray on the back that you can pull out, so don't forget to pull that out because it does help to support the mat. Now we're gonna go ahead and scan the mat. Now why are we scanning the mat? Because this is an awesome feature that the Brother has. You know, you can put your fabric down and you don't have to scan the mat, but man, it's really nice to do so. So I'm going to show you why. So let's go ahead and hit that button. Scan button is right here in the middle. So I'll go ahead and hit that and hit start. It's going to go ahead and scan it. Now, this is really great if you've got multiple pieces that you're going to be cutting, and it's basically taking a picture of what's on your mat. And it allows you to just kind of put your fabric anywhere you want on the mat, and then you can move what you want to cut out or draw or whatever it is you're doing. You can move that object to wherever your mat is on the mat, which is really, really cool. So you can see here, it took a picture of the actual fabric that I have, and you can see the 2 red squares here. And so this is really awesome because now I'm able to move the items around if I need to, right? So if I want the heart, I can move things around. Okay, and I want to make sure that my heart is going to cut out within that area. So let me just move it over towards me just a little bit so I could see that a little bit more. Nice. So all I'm doing is just making sure that the object is inside of my fabric because I don't want it to cut outside of the fabric, right? So this is really great. It fits inside the fabric. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. And then we can just hit start. Oh, oh, wait a minute, we forgot something. Isn't that awesome? It tells you. It tells you, hey, you forgot to put something in there. It needs a blade to cut. So we're gonna say, okay. Now I'm gonna go ahead and use, there's several different types of blades that you can use. They have a fabric blade cutter, but they also have a rotary cutter. Now I really love the rotary cutter, and I'm gonna tell you why. The fabric cutter does an awesome job. It really does. But the great thing about the rotary cutter, and let me just show you how quick it is. You can pop it right in here. All you do is make sure that the brother logo is facing you there, and then you just pop it inside, push it down, and then this little lever here, just push it down. That's all you got to do. Now, the way this rotary cutter works is the rotary cutter is going to actually think to see what is the best job I can do to cut this fabric. So first it's going to collaborate, and it's going to look to see about what kind of thickness you are putting through the machine. Now you can do 0.3 millimeters on this machine. It'll cut that no problem, but it will collaborate to see what type of material you are putting through whenever you are doing a project that you're cutting through the machine, right? So when you start it, it's going to go ahead and measure to see what the thickness is that's on the mat. And then it's going to think and say, what is the best way for me to cut this particular object? And it's going to find the best route to give you the most accurate cut, which is really nice. Now, when you're doing just a regular blade, the regular blade is just going to cut it as it's designed. This one's actually thinking to see which one is the better cut. So I thought that was really cool. Plus it's a rotary blade, so it's just circling around and cutting as it goes. It's not kind of just dragging the cut. So this is actually the best blade ever, I think. I really love it. So I'm gonna go ahead now. We're gonna hit start. And it's going to say, hey, you didn't tell me what you wanted me to do. So I have to go in here and hit select. And it says, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to cut? Do you want me to draw? Do you want me to emboss, foil? And you can go on and on. There's all kinds of options. Well, we want it to cut. So we're going to go ahead and say cut. And now it's processing. And then again, go ahead and hit start. Now here it's thinking, you see how the blade is kind of sinking down and up? It's trying to figure out where do I have to be at to get the most accurate cut. And then once it does that, it's gonna go ahead and start cutting. Pretty cool. Now the one thing about the rotary blade, it does take a little bit longer than the regular blade. But I think it's worth it. I think it's worth the wait. You know, it just takes a little bit longer because it's thinking about what's the most accurate cut it can do. So I'm fine with waiting just for a little bit. Okay, it says that it finished cutting. I'm gonna hit okay. I'm gonna go ahead and unload the mat. Let's take it out and let's see what we've got here. Now, when you're taking things off the mat, it's always best to kind of use a little spatula, get underneath it and pull it, because you really don't want to kind of pull the fabric and kind of distort it. So you can see nice, clean cut, really beautiful. I'll go ahead and pull the excess off here. And so you have these beautiful hearts. How cute is that? So I'm gonna go ahead and put my little spatula underneath, and I'm just kind of get it off the mat because I really don't want to pull on it. I want to save the integrity of the fabric. Look at that. So cute, so accurate, so perfect. I love it. I really love that. Let's grab the other one. Now, when you first use your mat, it's super sticky because you just got it. But as you continue to use it more and more, it gets a little bit less sticky, but it's fine. Really love the accuracy of this cut. It's really amazing. Isn't that cute? Love it. Let's cut some more. Okay, so we've already seen that's just some regular fabric, right? Other things that you can do, and let me see here, is, now this is just cutting plain fabric. We're gonna cut some fabric and we're gonna tell it, hey, I want a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I want you to draw the 1/4 inch seam allowance for me, because let's say I'm not a great sewist and I like to see the line on where I have to sew. This really helps you out. So this is perfect. So let's go ahead and grab some more fabric. I'm going to use this one. I think this was nice and light so that you guys can see. I'm going to go ahead and put this on the mat. Now remember, you can put this anywhere on the mat. The main thing is to make sure that you use the brayer and make sure that the fabric is nice and stuck on the mat. That's the most important part. This fabric is untreated. Now the nice thing about putting your fabric anywhere you want on the mat is that so that one area isn't completely used up when you are kind of using this mat. We tend to put fabric always on the same spot, so this area would get used up really quickly. So if you're able to put your fabric anywhere you want on the mat, then it makes it just so much easier and it will last a little bit longer. So let's go ahead and load the mat. Okay, so we're at our home page. I'm going to go ahead and hit pattern. We're going to have the shapes. We're going to do a square. And I'm going to bring down the size of this square to about 2.5 inches. Yeah, let's do 2.5 inches square. And I think that looks good. So let's go ahead and hit set. Now I want to go ahead and draw on this. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to hit OK. Actually, you know, I'm going to go back and we're going to scan the mat. Let's scan this mat. Go ahead and scan it. I want to make sure that my fabric is in the right place and I'll be able to fit my design to the size of the fabric that I have on my mat. So that's a great way to check to make sure that it is going to be able to cut that fabric in there. And that way, if you cut maybe a little bit too small of a piece, you're able to change it. So let's see what we got. I see the square here. I'm going to bring it down. Bring it down to the center of this area. That looks good. I'll go ahead and hit OK. Now it's going to ask me, well, what do you want to do? Well, I want to go ahead and we're going to be cutting it and drawing it. So let's look at, you see the cut, and you can just cut it from here, but I want us to do a little bit of a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So I want it to draw that seam allowance and then cut it. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go back and I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. Let's draw. And on here, I'm going to hit the little wrench and I'm going to see you can change your speed. You can change the pressure. I think that everything looks great. Go ahead and hit OK. Let's go back. We want to edit. Now you're going to see the option that says Object Edit. Go ahead and hit that. And you're going to see the second icon from the bottom, first icon on the second row. It looks like a little box within a box. So go ahead and hit that. And you're going to see the options, seam allowances on and off. I'm going to go ahead and turn it on. And you're able to adjust what type of seam allowance you want. Well, I have a 1/4 inch here, and I think that's exactly what I want. But you can go up and down and change the size of your width. So I think this is exactly what I want. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK and OK. And I think everything looks good. So let's go ahead and hit OK again and OK. So now what do you want to do with this? Well, we want to draw. And I think that looks good. Let's go ahead and hit start. And it's telling me, hey, you can't do it yet. I don't have a drawing tool. Right now what we have is the rotary blade cutter. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. Let's come over here. open this up. We're gonna take our rotary blade out and we're going to put in the marker. So when you buy the ScanNCut, it do give you this little case along with a couple of markers. And so I'm gonna go ahead and pick the black marker, I'm gonna open that up, and I'm gonna drop it into the case. And then just close it up. And then you're gonna want to take the side that says brother, it should be facing out. Go ahead and put that into the machine and then close the lever. There you go. Alrighty, we have everything we need now, so let's go ahead and hit start. And it was that quick. Wow, that was fast. It drew the little box here, so that's what I'm gonna be using as my 1/4" seam guide when I sew this. So it's gonna tell me, hey, I finished drawing, so I'm gonna hit okay. So what else do you wanna do with it? Well, let's go ahead and hit please select. We're gonna hit cut. And we're gonna go ahead and hit start. And it's telling me, hey, you forgot to change the tool again. So once again, it stops you and it prompts you. It tells you what it needs. So go ahead and hit okay. Let's open up that lever. Let's take this out. Go ahead and hit the rotary blade inside. And let's close that lever here. Now we'll go ahead and hit start. And it's going to start collaborating and trying to figure out what the best way to cut it is and the thickness of the material that you're using, which is really awesome. I love how this tool really prompts you for a lot of things. It's really, really nice in that sense. And that's it. It finished cutting. So I'll go ahead and click OK. Now I'm going to go ahead and grab my little spatula and I'm going to just kind of wiggle it underneath the fabric and I can pull that away and you can see nice clean cut. And I think it looks good, so I'm going to go ahead and unload the mat. And let's take this off. I really recommend to use the little spatula to get underneath the fabric and just kind of take it away from the mat. Because if you just pull it, you're kind of just pulling the fabric and you may just kind of change the integrity of the fabric. You want to keep the fabric nice and secure, and you want to make sure that the fabric doesn't get pulled on either side, because then it will kind of look all wonky when you try to put it together. So here it is, really nice clean cut, and it has a nice 1/4" seam allowance guide for me for when I cut it and I bring this over to my sewing machine and I sew it. This is really, really neat. Take a look at that. I think that is awesome. It does just a fantastic job, really makes it nice, and that's just a really nice feature. Now you can't do a 1/4" seam allowance or any other allowance on every single object. There are certain objects that it's available on, not all of them have it. So if you find that you get to that option and you don't see that it's available, it's probably not going to be available. For things that are probably have maybe some curvy stuff or some specific types of objects that you're trying to cut out. So now that we've got this all cut up, we're ready to go ahead and sew this together, and you can bring it over to your sewing machine and go ahead and sew right on the seam allowance that is shown on here. So it makes it so easy for you to bring that in your sewing machine. So what else can you do with your ScanNCut? There's so much more that you can do. Let's bring one more thing over. I am going to grab some fabric that I put some heat and bond on. So nice and stable. This one is kind of treated, right? It's not just the regular fabric like we've been doing here, right? This one actually has some heat and bond on here. So let's take a look at how you do that. So let's go ahead and put the heat and bond on here. So I'm gonna go ahead and take my mat. Now, if you're using heat and bond, you don't want the heat and bond paper to be on the mat because you're gonna have a time trying to take it out. So you want to make sure that your fabric is down. So fabric facing down on the mat. Let's go ahead and put it down here. And I'm gonna just rub my hand on the mat, get my brayer out, make sure it's nice and secure. Okay. You really want to make sure that this is nice and stuck on the mat. Okay, I think that looks good. Let's do something a little bit more fun than squares, right? So let's go ahead and hit pattern. And let's go to some shapes over here. And let's see, they've got so many for you to choose from. And this is just kind of like a sub menu. So if you click on it, there's even more to do. So here's a real cute one. We've got a little gingerbread man here. I think that looks pretty cute. And let's see, he's got a size of about 3.94 inches. I guess that's not too bad. Maybe let's bring him down just a tad. Let's do about 3.8. That's great. Okay, so I'm gonna hit okay. And let's see, we want to cut. There's a couple different options that it's telling you. Hey, I can cut just the outline, or I can do the inside and the outside of this gingerbread man. Which one do you want? I want inside and outside. And I'm gonna go ahead and hit okay. Now, let's take our mat. Let's go ahead and load it. Make sure I have everything out of the way behind there. Okay, and let's go ahead and hit set. Now, I could scan the mat, but I pretty much have covered almost the entire thing, so I really don't have to. I think it's pretty good. Now, I can still move the object around. Let's say I want it just about there. I think that looks good. I'm gonna go ahead and hit okay. And it's gonna ask me, please select. What do you want me to do? Well, I want you to go ahead and cut this out for me. And let's hit start. And there we go. It's testing it out. It's seeing the thickness of your material. And it's trying to figure out what the best cut is. Now, again, when you're using the rotary blade cutter as opposed to the other blade, it does tend to take a little bit longer. Not too much, but just a little bit longer, because it is trying to find that real precise cut that it can give you, and it looks at the actual thickness of the material that you are using. So really nice that it does that, because it is taking the time to really get that accurate cut for you, which I really love. So always remember that you're going to have the fabric face down on the mat if you are going to use heat and bond. That's really important to know. And if you're just using just regular plain fabric like we did here, you just put the fabric right on the mat. Just make sure you're using the fabric mat or a low-tack mat. Okay. Still going in and cutting, and it's telling me it's going to be about 2 minutes, and it's maybe about halfway there already. So it's really making the little cuts for me, and then it's going to cut the whole thing. Now, sometimes you may get some little pieces of the heat and bond, depending on how intricate your cut is. They may pop out. Don't worry about it. It'll be fine. So far, it is looking really, really good. Such a cute little design that you can make, and it has all kinds of designs. Now, this particular one also has some Disney items in there that you can cut out, which is really cool. Remember, you can draw things, you can cut things, you can emboss things. There's just so many things, but fabric is amazing. You can do quilt blocks, you can do all kinds of things with this machine. It really will cut your time in half, having to cut out so many little blocks. I mean, imagine if you were making a quilt with 2.5-inch blocks. How long would it take you to cut this, right? It will take some time. Well, you can just set it on your machine, and you can tell it, hey, cut about 20 of these for me, and it'll cut it for you. That's definitely a time saver. And if you're one that likes to have the little drawn line to get that 1/4-inch seam, that's just a plus. Okay. Let's see, it looks like it finished. It's asking me, do you want to do something else now? I think we're finished. Let's go ahead and take it off. I unloaded the mat because I know this thing is going to be perfect now. Did I need all of this fabric? Probably not, but that's okay. Let's go ahead and get underneath here, and I'm going to pull it up. Let's go ahead and get underneath. There we go. Now you may have to just take off some little pieces here and there. Super, super cute, guys. Now I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna remove the paper backing now that has that heat and bond. And you can see on here, once you've taken that out, you can see here, look how cute he is. Super, super cute, right? Love it. And you can make so many things with this. I mean, so here is one that I made. Did this earlier. Put it on some blocks. I mean, how cute is that? You can make just an entire quilt with just this. Super, super cute. Remember, you can change the size. You can make them bigger or smaller. I mean, all kinds of things that you can do with this. So, you know, this is really an amazing machine. I'm just going to briefly show you a couple more options here. If I go back to my home, I'm going to go ahead and cancel that. You go into your patterns, and there's just so much that you can do. You've got some fonts, you've got some Disney stuff. Let's take a look at some of the other things you have here. Look at these designs. I mean, they're amazing. You've got some really intricate little cuts that you can make here. Really, really cool. I mean, I would just play around with this. It's got so many options. Little ducks, little whales, little fishies. I mean, super cute. And this is just what comes with the machine. You can also go into Canva and you have tons more that you can get. So it's just amazing. Just with the stuff that comes in here is enough. So if you go down here, on the bottom, you'll see here that was something that looks like little quilt blocks. And here's a ton of more quilting things that you can do. Really, really neat. They have just a ton of options. So go ahead and play around with the machine when you get it. You know, there's just so much you can do. You can try so many different things out. I really love this machine. It's really a game changer for cutting fabric. It's amazing, and there's just so much more. So I'm going to be exploring a lot more options with this machine. So I hope you guys enjoyed this little tutorial. I just was so excited. I needed to show you how I'm cutting fabric now with this machine, and I think it's amazing. Please go ahead and give it a try. If you haven't gotten the machine and you haven't gotten it out of the box, get it out of the box and play around with it, because it's really a lot of fun. I think you're going to love it. Till then, I hope you guys really enjoy crafting with me, and I hope to be crafting with you soon. Bye, everyone.
Crochet, quilting, and sewing, crafting is what she knows. Making smiles one craft at a time. Your talent will grow with every stitch and every thread she weaves her art. Her hands create something special straight from the heart. And as the colors come alive, the joy spreads near and far.